Welcome back to the channel. This is Tartarian Explorer here, coming at you with an exploration into the discovery of King Tut's tomb. Fraud or legit? So, some back context here. According to Wikipedia, the tomb of Tutankhamun was discovered in the Valley of Kings in 1922 by excavators led by the Egyptologist Howard Carter. More than 3,300 years later, or after Tutankhamun's death and burial. Whereas the tombs of most pharaohs were plundered by grave robbers in ancient times, Tutankhamun's tomb was hidden by debris for most of its existence and therefore not extensively robbed. It thus became the first known, largely intact royal burial from ancient Egypt. So, most of you have probably heard of King Tut before. Shoot me a comment if you haven't. I'm curious to hear who hasn't, because most people, I would say almost 99% of people have. I've learned about him in grade school. So when I found out about questioning of this discovery, I was somewhat shocked, but then I was like, oh, this kind of happens a lot in history. What historical events aren't wrought with fraud and deception? So I'm going to be paraphrasing from a video called History, Science, or Fiction. It's a 24-part series by two researchers, primarily Anatoly Fomenko and Gleb Novosky. So it's not my original work. I'm just letting you know right now. I'll leave a link in the description to the video so you can watch it yourself, and it's got pretty pictures and everything. It's a great presentation, but I just want to paraphrase it for y'all because I was so excited to share. When I found out, it's like, whoa, it's fascinating stuff right here. All right. These are the inconsistencies with the official story. Howard Carter began excavations at the very spot that the tomb would later be found. At first, he found nothing in 1917. Then in 1922, he found the burial site. After discovering the tomb, he did not allow his colleagues to open the doors and intentionally delayed the excavation process. When archaeologists excavated the tomb again, they found that the sealed entrance had been already opened and resealed twice before. The conclusion was obvious. The tomb had been visited by thieves twice. Alright, so the room had been filled with golden objects that had not been plundered. All finds were in excellent condition. They had not gathered dust or tarnished in 3,000 years. This included many golden objects, including leather pouches filled with coins. 3,000 years ago, if they were legitimate, then 3,000 years ago, leather pouches would have rotted in that time. For some reason, a narrow gauge railway was laid to the burial site. Interesting. It took an unusually long time to work in the tomb. Excavation lasted for 5 years, and it's only an 80 square meter area. The burial is significantly different from other tombs located in the Valley of Kings. In one of the rooms, it was painted to look like it was made of gold. The wall is gold, but it had been turned out. It turned out there was yellow gold paint, and it was just made to look old and painted more recently. You can't take pictures or videos. It is the only tomb in the Valley of Kings which you cannot. Then we have the Curse of the Pharaoh. So people started dying that did the excavation. Lord Carnarvon, the financier, died recently after, as well as his half-brother, who committed suicide, his wife, Deaths followed one after another. Carter's secretary and his father died. And by 1930, only Howard Carter himself remained alive among the immediate participants in the excavation. Now, prevailing, it was thought that this was a curse from the pharaoh seeking revenge on those who disturbed his tomb. But a more likely explanation is that people were asking too many questions and they had to be silenced. So that wouldn't be the first time in history that's happened. Wouldn't surprise me. According to Fomenko and the New Chronology, this is what likely happened. Howard Carter began building the tomb for 5 years, from 1917 to 1922, and then that's when he supposedly uncovered it. The Egyptian government was in on it. This was an archaeological forgery and an excellent business project, because most of the items were sold to museums around the world for astronomical sums of money. So there are the inconsistencies, the official story. I'll leave a link, like I said, in the video to this video to watch it. It has pretty pictures, more in-depth detail. All right, here we have National Geographic Kids. The discovery of King Tut's tomb. Find out how explorers uncovered this ancient Egyptian's resting place. The air was hot and musty as the explorers made a hole in the plaster-filled doorway of the ancient Egyptian tomb. No one had seen inside the royal resting place for 3,000 years, and they didn't know what they would find. Give me a break. When archaeologist Howard Carter held up a candle to peer inside on November 26, 1922, the light glinted on golden objects. This tomb belonged to the pharaoh Tutankhamun and would soon become the most famous ancient Egyptian discovery of all time. And in 1917, Carter and a wealthy British man, Lord Carnarvon, started searching for Tut, carefully digging in the sand all the way down to the bedrock in each section where they looked, so they'd be sure not to miss anything. Years went by without any Tut discovery, and Carnarvon was ready to give up. Carter asked for just a few more months. 3 days after starting this latest search, the team uncovered what looked like a step buried in the sand. As they removed the sand and debris, found more steps leading down. Finally, they discovered a plaster doorway stamped with the name Tutankhamun. They found a tomb almost entirely intact. Carter later wrote, details of the room emerged slowly from the mist. Strange animals, statues, and gold everywhere. The glint of gold. Here's what. This is a 1922 photo. The antechamber contained more than 600 items, including chariots and golden beds, shaped like animals. That's the pharaoh, King Tut, apparently right there. Carter then excavated a room called the Treasury, filled with a smaller shrine containing Tut's organs that had been removed during mummification. The room seemed to be guarded by a statue of Anubis, the god of mummification and the dead. Lastly, the team removed the items from a room called the Annex, filled with over 2,000 items. Carter spent nearly 10 years removing more than 5,000 objects from the tomb. The discovery and excavation delighted people around the world who followed his work in the newspapers and radio. U.S. President Herbert Hoover even named one of his dogs King Tut. King Tut's tomb is still the most intact royal Egyptian tomb ever found. giving historians important information about this ancient culture. Although the pharaohs who came after Tut wanted him to be forgotten, today he's one of the most famous ancient rulers of all time. So, just open your mind a little bit. What if it was a fraud? What does that mean for all of Egyptian history? I mean, how much of Egyptian history is a fraud? Is Egyptian history in whole totality a misplaced history? Is the timeline totally different than ever been taught in schools or by anybody in textbooks? I'll get more into that in future videos, but I think so. So this doesn't surprise me at all. But do your own research. Watch the video in the description. Like I said, it's fascinating. There's some cool pictures, and he puts it together in a really awesome way. So thanks for watching. Peace. All right, so we have some comments. True Blue 4444 writes, "Thank you for this video and this channel in general. Really appreciate you." This was a comment on my Canary Islands interview part 3. And then Aaron of Etheric Arts, who interviewed me for this video and all 3 parts, says, "It was a great hearing about your adventures. Thanks for sharing your story and including these beautiful images and videos." 100%. Thanks, Aaron. Appreciate all my watchers and viewers. Wouldn't be here without you. Also, thanks to Whiskey Pete for commenting on my live video in Glens Falls that I did. Let's see, I did 2 parts. Anyway, that was a great video. Check that out. It's trending now. This is great. I'm glad to share myself exploring, because I want to encourage you to explore your local area. Gotten like 6 comments on this one too. The trumpet tears are angels. You found the Gargoyle Tech Co. Get a nice tripod. Yep. So thanks for watching. Have a great day and question history.